Hello, Spokane business community. Mark Pond here at the Spokane Public Library, and what I want to cover today is looking at AtoZ Databases. And the focus for today will be pulling together lists of businesses. And this can have any number of applications, so it works really well for pulling together sales lead lists. So if you have some product or service to sell to particular types of businesses, it gets used a lot for that. Also for competitive analysis, trying to figure out who else might be playing in your sandbox. Also gets used for that pretty heavily. And then also maybe looking for suppliers. That's another application. So to get access to AtoZ, your shortest avenue is probably to go to SpokaneBusiness.org. And then if you come down here to the Spokane Public Library link, and if you're doing this from outside the library, you'll click on that link and it'll ask you for your library card. If you don't have that, just get in touch with me and we can work out a solution there. But from here, there are a number of different modules that AtoZ provides within their database. But for the focus of this particular segment, we're just going to look at the business side of things. So if there's a business that you want more information about, you can just pop that right there under business name and then run the search. But usually how this gets used is pulling together lists of businesses. So if we go to the advanced search, then you can throw as many or as few of these filters that run down the left-hand side of the page at the search as you want. So I've already put together one video tutorial showing you the details about how to go about setting up geographic region, and that's super flexible. You can do that in a number of different ways, but let's just, for the sake of this example, we'll just look here at the county. So we could say we're here in Washington, and then we're looking at Spokane County, and then just click the county and it'll dump it over here under the selected county box. But just know you can have multiple counties going. You can throw in a zip code from Omaha, however you want to do this. Then from there, the next filter that gets used quite a bit is here under this keyword or business type. That works really well if you're looking for just an individual line of business. So let's say if you wanted a list of all of the florists in Spokane. So we could run that search, and we've got 36 listings that fall into that particular bucket there. So there we go, that's great. But often in terms of pulling together lists of businesses, rather than just an individual line of business, sometimes what works really well is this major industry group. So if you wanted to capture broad swaths of the economy all at once, so let's say you wanted all of the construction firms in Spokane County. We run our search, and there are 1,938 of construction firms of various stripes. Coming back here, just know that you can drill in with these major industry groups and get down to a pretty fine grain level of detail. So if you come in and say, well, maybe it's the building construction folks that you're wanting to focus on, and the companies out there building bridges and highways, maybe you're not so interested in those. So just know that you can get down to a pretty fine level of detail there. So let's just quickly run that search, and there are 807 companies that fit that particular profile. Just a couple of words of caution here about these lists. One, in terms of this revenue per year, take that with a couple grains of salt. It's really hard for AtoZ or any other tool like this to pin a specific sales number on a privately held company. So just know that the process for that is, it's an estimate. The second piece is that the way AtoZ pulls these lists together is they scrape the business license filings from the Secretary of State. And so if a business is incorporated, then that's a pretty solid handle for AtoZ to get a hold of through the Secretary of State. But generally speaking, sole proprietors don't incorporate, so they don't have a listing with Secretary of State. So just know that that's kind of a gaping hole in some of these lists, where if it's an industry that is pretty heavily dominated by sole proprietors, that you can kind of get a skewed view of what's actually happening out there on the landscape. So those are two things. The other thing is just beware that AtoZ and any other resources like this, they have a hard time keeping track of businesses that are no longer in business. So it's pretty easy to scrape the filings from the Secretary of State, but it gets a little bit harder when trying to determine if a business is actually out of business. All right, so just know that all of these list results, you can download them, dump them into a spreadsheet. They're yours to keep. But if we come back here to our search filters, there are a couple of things that are worth pointing out that I think warrant some extra attention here. So one extra filter that gets used a lot, this headquarters/branch. So this allows you to say, all right, you only want to focus on companies that are either headquartered here in Spokane or just a single location. So just by clicking those two buttons, those will kind of weed out the branches and subsidiaries of larger, maybe more national organizations. That's one filter that gets used a lot. The other one, you can filter by number of employees in that annual revenue, but again, just keep in mind that those are estimates. But then from there, any number of other filters running down the side of the page there that you can throw at any particular search. One last comment there with AtoZ, just know that within Demographics Now, as we scroll on down the page here from SpokaneBusiness.org, within Demographics Now, we do have access to the Dun & Bradstreet business directory, so that's a competitor to AtoZ. They tend to each have their own pluses and minuses in terms of what they do better, but just wanted to let you know that is available there. And I have a separate video tutorial within Demographics Now on how to go about pulling those Dun & Bradstreet business listings. And the way to find those video tutorials for Demographics Now, if you click here under Learn More, that's where they'll be showing up. So just look for those there. All right, I hope that gets you pointed in the right direction, but if you have other questions, do be in touch.